Hello everybody and welcome back to Cooking with Grandma. Today we're going to be making a recipe, we're going to do a copycat recipe of the IKEA meatballs. If anybody has ever eaten at IKEA in the restaurant, the one we have is in Burlington. I don't know if they have one where y'all are at, or near, or even in the States they have them if they have the restaurant there. They have the Swedish meatballs and they're really good. So I get emails every day from Copycat Recipes. Y'all can go to copycatrecipes.com and sign up, and they'll send you a list of a bunch of recipes every day in your inbox. And it's pretty good. I mean, if you don't like the recipes, you just delete that one. It doesn't matter. So today we're going to start with, we're going to make the Swedish meatballs. So to start with, it calls for 2 potatoes peeled and cubed and cooked. So you cook the potatoes, and boil them just like you do regular potatoes and mash them, and that's what I have here. Now, apparently they're going to use potatoes instead of breadcrumbs for filling, so I've already done that ahead of time because I have to let them cool completely. So I'm just going to I mash them and I put them in a bowl, took them out of the hot pan so they can cool, because they have to cool completely when we make our mixture. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Phone rings right at the wrong times. So we got the potatoes done. This is you're going to put the potatoes in like for a filler rather than breadcrumbs, apparently. This is what IKEA does it. So now I've got my saucepan here with 1 tablespoon of butter, and I'm going to saute 1 onion that I've diced. I'm going to put that on in there. And you don't want it to get brown, you just want them to get translucent, like see-through. And we're going to give those a second to cook through. Make sure they're all in little pieces. Sometimes you miss one and you don't want a big chunk of onion. So we're going to give those a little quick saute. And while those are sauteing, I've already got my oven preheated to 250, because once you make the meatballs, you have to put them in like on a sheet pan, on a cookie sheet pan, just to keep them warm while you're making the sauce. So I've got my oven preheated. Now what we're going to do is, while we're letting these saute, letting these cook up, I'm going to mix all my ingredients that I need together. So I'm just going to slide my pan out of the way, put the bowl there so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so what we need is, we need to mix the ground beef, the ground pork, the eggs, and the seasonings, and the onions, and the cooled onions. Oopsie, I gotta cool them, do I? Okay. Alright, so we're just going to have to let them cook and then take them a minute and cool. So I need to get 1 pound of ground beef. Normally, a recipe calls for ground beef and ground pork. I just use beef. I just use hamburgers. But I've never made this recipe before, and I do have some ground pork that I'm just thawing out, and I'm going to go ahead and use it. Just have it all thawed out. It's actually patties, but it's still ground pork, which is made into patties, and I'm just going to thaw it out and make it back into ground pork. I'm going to take it away from the patty shape. It's still not quite all the way thawed, but I should have almost 1 pound here. And we're just going to put that in the bowl. This is, I've had these a couple of times at the store. Usually I end up getting, their spaghetti or their fish. All their food is, like, I've not had everything, of course, but, their spaghetti is very good. The fish is extremely good. It's very good. It's light batter, and it doesn't have, it's not more batter than fish. It's really nice. So here we go. I'm just going to break up this patty here. Make it into a little bit ground pork going on. Okay, so I got my pork, the rest of it thawed out. We get that in there with the hamburger. Okay, darn, phone rings again. No, it was just a telemarketer, nobody there. So anyway, we've got our ground beef and our ground pork in the bowl here. To that we're going to add the egg, the seasoning, the cooled onions, and the mashed potatoes. Now, when I had it on pause for a second, I did take my onions out of the pan and put them on a plate so they could cool. They won't take very long. This is what translucent onions are. You see that? They're kind of yellowy color and white. That's what you want. You don't want them browned at all because you don't want anything in the pan like that. So we put an egg, and we're going to use some salt and pepper. It says a teaspoon of salt and 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper. There we go. I just eyeball it, give it a few shakes. Okay, so mix the ground beef, the ground pork, the seasoning, the cooled onions. They're almost cool, they're pretty good. Cooled onions and the mashed potatoes. These are used to bind them instead of breadcrumbs. Now, there is a few different variations of this recipe. Some people copy it. There's different websites out there. When I first got it, I just got it from the Copycat website, right directly from there. And I couldn't remember exactly where in my email I saved it, so I just looked up IKEA meatballs, and there are a lot of variations. They call for so many different ingredients. The one called for like heavy cream and whipping cream and half and soy sauce, and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't have all that stuff. I don't want to go out and buy a whole thing of. You can substitute heavy cream. You can just use sour cream or cream cheese, depending on what you're making. This does call for 1/4 of a cup of heavy cream. I'm using 1/4 of a cup of sour cream. You can substitute that and it'll do the same thing. Just do it exactly whatever the amounts of the heavy cream is, just do the amounts of sour cream. It'll work exactly the same way. Okay, so I've got all that mixed in. I could have maybe chopped those onions a little smaller, but once they cook in through the meatballs, they'll be okay. They'll cook down a bit. So now I've already preheated my oven, and we're going to form the mixture into 1 tablespoon size meatballs. So they're small meatballs, but if you've ever had Swedish meatballs, that's what they are. So you take a tablespoon, fill it up with there, and just go ahead and make the meatballs. Okay, now I have to put 2 more tablespoons of butter. It was 3 tablespoons of butter divided use. So the first tablespoon was to use for the onions, and the last 2 tablespoons are to cook the meatballs in. So I'm gonna turn my pan up just a little. So add the 2 remaining tablespoons of butter and melt over. Fry the meatballs in batches, about 10 meatballs at a time. Well, I'm using my big skillet, so I can probably get more than 10 at a time. If you're using just a little skillet on the stove, you don't want to crowd them because you want to have room to turn them over. So we're just going to go ahead. Let's see how many I can get in all at once. This is going to probably make quite a bit. Yeah. And I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to get in here with my hands because I see big chunks of potato that haven't gone mixed through. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a good, you can stir it with a spoon, but this way you get a good feel of everything, that it's all mixed in better. You know, you always wash your hands before you start cooking, so hands are clean. It doesn't hurt anything, and you can tell, you can just feel it, that it's mixed. And now I can see the difference. I don't have the big white lumps in it. I actually thought it was big chunks of onion, but it wasn't. It was potato that hadn't got all the way mixed through. You know, there is chunks of onion, but it's not as much as I thought. So there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and keep mixing these meatballs, and you can just take a spoonful. You can measure each one if you like. So let's see. I eyeballed that, so let me see. See, I just grabbed it, and it was exactly a tablespoon. And you make them into your meatballs and put them in your pan. You don't want them very close together. You want to be able to let them cook and evenly. You want them all the same size. IKEA meatballs are all small. Any Swedish meatball recipe that you make, any other recipe, whether it's you copycatting the IKEA recipe or you're just looking up a recipe for Swedish meatballs, they're all very small. They're like almost like bite size. Oh, okay. So we just keep rolling. I got them in the frying pan on medium heat, and we cook them through. We have to brown them. We have to turn them so they're brown evenly on all sides, and we cook them through. And then we place the cooked meatballs on a sheet pan and keep them warm in the oven, and then finish if we have to make another batch. And then we make the sauce that goes with them right in the same pan. So you get all the nice brown pan drippings as you're going to get. You don't want these brown. You just want them very lightly browned. You don't want them like you would a hamburger, like not blackened, but extra brown. You don't want that for these kind of meatballs. You just want them nicely, evenly browned. So by the time I get through making this whole pan full, I'll be able to start turning. Because normally you kind of should make them ahead of time, make a batch, and put them in the pan all at the same time, because then they all cook evenly. But in this case, it's not going to be that bad. So instead of 4, 8, 12, I'm going to get 16 at a time. It's going to make quite a lot with the 2 pounds of meat, but again, they're little bite-sized things. You're going to want, 5 or 6 with your meal. And I'm going to be serving these over some noodles, just plain noodles with butter and cheese on them. You don't want it's not like the kind you would make. It's not the kind of meatballs you would do with spaghetti. So while those are browning, I'm just going to go ahead and keep making the meatballs, and then I'll have the next batch ready. I've got a bowl here that I had the potatoes in that's now empty, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill that up and keep making my meatballs. So that way that step is done. I don't have to stop, take the meatballs out, make more meatballs. You kind of going in batches here, so you want to get it all done. I'm just going to turn my frying pan up just a little bit. I'm very impatient. I like things to be done quickly. I don't want to. I know when I made the Sex in the Pan pudding cake, that was the hardest one because you have to let it set for like 3 hours in the refrigerator. And I kept checking it. I kept touching the top of it and thinking, oh, it's not set yet. It's not set yet. And then I realized, no, it's not set on top, silly, because that's whipped cream. Whipped cream is not going to set. So I just had to cut into it when I thought it was, when the pudding part of it was set. So yeah, I was just assuming make things that I can pretty much eat right away. These things, when they're done, you can go ahead and serve them right away. I'm just, like I said, I'm going to make some noodles and serve them right over top of the noodles that are just regular noodles like elbows or even spaghetti. You can even use spaghetti that's broken up. Anything, egg noodles if you have them. It doesn't matter. Pasta is pasta, just whatever you like. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and turn these guys. And I think y'all can see what I've done here, how nicely they look. You see? Yeah, bring it over here a little bit. There, you can see how nice they look. They're already starting to brown nice. That's what you want, just a nice light brown like that. You don't want them brown. You just want a very nice light brown. So we're just going to turn these all, and it's just going to take another couple of minutes. And I've got my cookie sheet ready to put these in the oven to bake the next batch. So now that they're cooked, they're starting to shrink up a little bit. I'm going to kind of push them up and make room and put another batch in while these guys are cooking. And then I'll have everything kind of done at once. I can show everybody what they look like when they're done. I want to make the sauce. I'll make this many, make the sauce, and then I'll just go ahead and cook off the meatballs after, when I'm done here, when I make you the sauce and show you what it looks like. There, I'm just going to put that many in the pan for now. Give them a few minutes to cook through. Now for the sauce, what we need, after the meatballs are all cooked, we leave everything in the frying pan, all the drippings, the little pieces of onions that have maybe fallen out, the little bits of hamburger that has fallen, and we add some flour to that. Add flour to the pan, then filled with the meat grease. We leave that in, we whisk it for 2 minutes, and then we add the beef broth and continue to whisk, and then we add the cream and whisk until it's thickened. Put the meatballs from the take them out of the oven, and put them in the thickened gravy and serve. There we go. You can serve gravy on the side, but whenever they're served at IKEA, they're in the gravy. They're right in it. So, and these are pretty easy to cook, and it's a fairly budget-friendly recipe. Again, it's hamburger, ground beef, ground pork, an onion, some beef broth, which if you don't have like the bouillon cubes, you haven't cooked a roast beef or anything that you've saved the broth from, you can buy beef broth in the grocery store in the little cartons, or you can buy the bouillon, whether it's the powdered form or the little cubes, and just boil some water and make some beef broth. This is what I did. I had some beef broth granules, like the powdered stuff, and I just put it in boiling water and made my own beef broth that way. So this one is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Looks like it's going to be a good recipe, and they sound good. I mean, if it tastes like IKEA, that's good, and if not, well then, all right. So you got Swedish meatballs of your own. But the one recipe I followed, and I was reading the ingredients and the instructions, and she said that it was her version, but it's very few ingredients are the same except for the meat. She used breadcrumbs instead of the potatoes. She used soy sauce, and then another type of sauce which makes it very salty. Soy sauce is very salty, and you have to be so careful. And Worcestershire sauce, that's another thing she used, which is good, but it's got a lot of salt content in it. So you have to be super careful using both of those spices together. And then she did the rest of the ingredients, but she used heavy cream and whipping cream, or no, half and half, and heavy cream. And I said, yeah. And she said they were a lighter, nice tasting version. I'm not sure where she's getting that from. It can't be a lighter version if you're using heavy cream and soy sauce, and it's gonna, oh no. So we're just gonna go ahead and make it from the actual restaurant. These recipes are all, people have gotten the recipes from the restaurants. I've done a lot of copycat recipes, and they've always come out really good. So if you look through my videos and you see the Coca-Cola cake recipe with the marshmallows on top, that was from Cracker Barrel. And I don't know if there's Cracker Barrel in Canada. I know it's in the States. My sister works at Cracker Barrel in Missouri, and I asked her if she'd ever had it, and she said, oh my goodness, yes. And I told her I made it, and that I made it once, and then 2 days later my kids asked me to make another one because it was gone and they all wanted one. Okay, so these are all browned all the way around, all the four sides, like every side. I'm turning them again. The ones I added last are just about brown. By the time I take the other ones out of the bowl, out of the pan, and put them on my cookie sheet, these will be done. And they are going to cook a little bit more. They're going to still cook while they're in the oven for a couple of minutes. And then when you put them, that's pretty much it. When you put them back in the sauce, they need to be done. So we're going to cook them, make sure they're cooked through. Just going to cut one of these open, just kind of a little bit. Yep. Okay. We're going to let these cook for another couple of minutes, and I'll come back when they're done. Okay, so now we're back. I've done all the meatballs. This is what they all look like when they're all just nicely browned. So I'm going to go ahead and pop those in the oven just to keep them warm while we make the gravy. That 2 pounds of meat, 1 pound of ground beef, and 1 pound of ground hamburger. I got 40 meatballs out of that recipe, so that's pretty good. That's a lot. So I'm just going to kind of scrape up the bottom of the pan here, get all the good stuff up. And now what we have to do is, to this pan drippings, we have to add 2 tablespoons of butter. Okay, we did that, yeah. Meatballs cooked. Okay, so add the flour to the saucepan with the meat grease and whisk for 2 minutes. Now I just got to get back up to the top of the recipe and see how much flour. I think it was 2 tablespoons, but I'm just going to double check here. 1/4 cup. Okay, that was close. 1/4 cup of flour. I'm going to put that in and whisk it good. Well, look at there. 1/4 cup is just a titch over 2 tablespoons. It's like 2.5 tablespoons. If you ever don't want to measure, 1/4 of a cup is 2.5 tablespoons. We're going to bump that in, and we're going to whisk it real quick, it says. And it's kind of, oh, there it goes. I say it's going to be kind of dry. I was going to have to add a little butter. I guess I had some real lean pork and lean ground beef because it's not very, I'm going to go ahead and put a little butter in there because it's just kind of clumping up. It's there wasn't a lot of grease left in the pan. It was very lean. This'll, see, it's kind of clumpy right now, but it'll, when you put the liquid in there, it'll change. Just like when you're making white sauce, when you mix the butter and the flour. Once you get the liquid in it, it'll even out. So we whisk that real good. And add the flour, whisk vigorously for 2 minutes. And then we're going to slowly add the beef broth and continue to whisk. So it calls for 3 cups of beef broth. And just slowly add that in and keep whisking as you're adding it. Then we'll switch hands because I'm left-handed and I can pour with my right hand but not so much whisk with it because it's just, I need a little more control. Can't do a whole lot with my right hand. And that was 2 cups of broth. And I'm going to add the 3rd cup and you want to just keep whisking it. Now this is what's going to make your flour all nice and smooth by adding this beef broth in there. You're going to keep whisking that. I'm going to go ahead and I want it to be nice and smooth. You don't want any lumps of flour. Keep stirring it. Okay, and continue to whisk, and then after a couple of minutes, add the cream. Like if you use heavy cream, by all means, you know, if you buy that kind of thing, half and half heavy cream, go right ahead. I don't cook with it or bake with it, so, you know, and I don't drink coffee, so I don't want it for milk, like the half and half, so, or to have it in my coffee. So just sour cream will suffice just perfectly. You can go online and you can look up substitutions for whatever it is you need, and 90% of the things there's a substitute for. So this is one of them. If you don't have heavy cream, use sour cream. But it's measured exactly the same. You don't want to add any more or any less. So that's starting to get nice, and it's very thin right now, but once you get the sour cream in there, and because you have the flour, it'll thicken up. I've got my spaghetti cooking as well. I've already cooked it because just to serve it over top of the noodles. I'll put my rinse out. See, this is a little trick when you're measuring something like that. You want to get it all out. Just take a little bit of your broth and swish it around in the cup, and pour it. That'll clean it out for you. So we're going to put that in, and we're going to whisk that through. And it gets a little curdly looking for a minute, but just for a minute. It kind of looks gross, but it's just because it's cold and it's dairy, and you're putting it in the hot liquid. So it will, but you see that the more you whisk, and you can see right in the picture that it is just about. Now we're going to keep stirring this, keep whisking it until it thickens up, which just usually just takes a couple of minutes. So this is your nice gravy that you're going to put over, and then we put the meatballs out of the oven and put them in this thickened gravy, or stir it, or serve it on the side like it says, but I'm going to go ahead and put them right in there. And then I'll plate a little bit of the spaghetti noodles and put the meatballs with a couple of tablespoons of the gravy right over top of them. So you can put butter and cheese. I wouldn't put Parmesan cheese. Sometimes we'll have noodles with butter and cheese on them instead of spaghetti sauce. In this case, I wouldn't use the Parmesan cheese because you're going to have the gravy. So if you want buttered noodles, that's okay. IKEA does serve them over noodles. You can do it over rice. You can do it with, I think they also have the option to serve it with mashed potatoes or like a side order of fries. I'm just going to go with the noodles, the spaghetti. So you see there, it's getting nice and thick. Didn't take too long. I had a little bit more of the beef grease, the meat grease, and the flour didn't pump up so much. It probably would have thickened quicker and it would have been easier, but you know, that's the way it goes when you use lean ground beef and lean pork. So there, it is thickening up very nicely. And you can see all the white is gone. You don't see any of the curdly kind of look going on. That's just nasty. You don't want to see that. So you can see and it's not thick, but it's, you know, it's not a completely thick gravy, but there it is. That's nice and smooth, velvety, nice beef gravy. So if you're ever making homemade gravy, that's all there is to it. Take your meat droppings, whatever kind, whether it's chicken or beef or turkey, whatever. I do use cornstarch instead of flour. I find that it's quicker to thicken it, but flour is good. You put, like I did, the flour and a little of the pan drippings or butter in the bottom of your pan and stir up the flour. Add your liquid. Now it could be the pan drippings, it could be broth. Again, broth gives it a good flavor, so you're better off doing broth instead of just tap water. And you just keep stirring, and instant gravy. If you whisk it continuously while it's heating up, you won't have any lumps. And people say, oh, I can't make gravy, it's lumpy. It took me a while to master it, but once you get the hang of it, you know, it's so easy. I mean, yeah, you can go to the store and buy a can of gravy, but then you have to think of all the preservatives and the additives that are in that can of gravy, so it lasts on your shelf for like 2 years. So this is easy peasy, and it doesn't take that long. This took like maybe 3-4 minutes, right? So there we go. There is our gravy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our meatballs out of the oven. And I'm just going to get my pancake turner here, and I'm going to just scoop them off and put them back into the gravy. All back in there. Now they're cooked through and they're still warm, so you can serve them right from here, just like this. Or if they got a little bit cooled, and if your oven wasn't completely, if you want them real hot, just leave them in here and simmer them for a couple more minutes. Or if you want to make sure that all the hamburger is cooked right through, because you don't want raw or lean, rare ground beef. Pork, some people eat it. No, I can't do it, but you don't want, I know I always questioned it, is beef. If you have a steak, it's beef, and you can have it rare, medium rare, whatever, but hamburger is beef. It's ground beef, but it's beef. And I always questioned it, why you couldn't have it raw, like, you know, rare like you do, but there's something in it when they chop it up that makes it not healthy, not good for your stomach. So there you go. There is the meatballs back in the gravy. So I'm just going to plate up a little bit of the noodles and show you what it looks like when it's all served up. Put on the plate here just to give you an idea of what it looks like. Yeah, you know, there's depending on how many people are in your family, that's how many meatballs you divvy it up so it's even, so they all get, I mean, obviously a little child would have a few less than the adults, but then you never know. My grandsons, they eat like adults, they're little. So yeah, it just depends on their appetites. And if this isn't enough, if 40 aren't enough for your family, add more meat. Just double the recipe, no matter what, it doesn't matter. So there it is. This is what's for dinner tonight. This is IKEA meatballs. Swedish meatballs right there. Whoopsie, and I just slid it right off the plate, angling it down to show you. There you go. That is IKEA Swedish meatballs. That's what's for dinner tonight over spaghetti. So everybody, I hope you enjoy it. Try it. Let me know in the comments if you do try it. And don't forget, with the contest with the peanut butter cookies that I made my last video, it's still open for the next 5 viewers. I had a winner, but I will extend it for 5 more viewers if they can tell me what's missing in the peanut butter cookies, and I will send them a collection of my recipes. So anybody interested, go ahead and watch the video and leave me a comment on what you think is missing. My email address is in the description box, so you can send me your address so I can mail you the recipes. And that is it for today. I hope everybody had a good time watching this video, and have a great day. Bye now.